Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just follow up, Mr. Robbins, you said something which I think reflected a concern I expressed at the beginning, which is having held a meeting on the coast in my district recently, a meeting with fishermen. They expressed a lot of concern about some proposed wind and wave energy off the coast, and felt that in the current hierarchy of things, they're kind of at the end in terms of being consulted, and Bureau of Energy and Management doesn't really have them formally as part of the process. And their only opportunity comes at the NEPA analysis of what's already been proposed, as opposed to perhaps up front being better able to accommodate their concerns. And you said something interesting. It said that, that the restrictions in this bill that say you can't use any of the data for any marine spatial planning would really inhibit that and could be destructive. Could you just expand on that for a second?
Certainly. If you think about what could happen in the offshore environment, particularly in the mid-Atlantic and in the northeast of the U.S., we could see significant wind energy development. And we've never seen anything like that in the offshore environment. Wind energy is obviously something that's in the nation's interest to pursue as far as renewable energy development goes. But when an offshore array is sited, it could take up 25 to 30 square miles of the ocean. And those areas may then be out of play for mobile gear commercial fisheries.
Right, so what you're concerned is that if we have data that shows particularly where they want to put it as a prime fishing area, well stocked, we couldn't use that data to oppose it.
That's correct, and I think it's critically important that that data come into those discussions to ensure that our traditional uses of those areas and fisheries and or the resources are protected.
Yeah. Okay, well thank you. Appreciate that. That points to one problem. Mr. Rao, some of what is happening here is because of the slowness of the bureaucracy. And I'll raise, two issues. One, we've got a pilot for electronic monitoring in the Pacific, in North Pacific region, in our region, PFMC, and it seems to be going very well. Yet I don't know what progress has been made in other areas, and further in our region, we're requiring, as the share of the agency's budget for observers goes down, putting an incredible burden. It's already difficult enough to have another person on a small boat, let alone to have another person on a small boat who isn't contributing to your income and have to pay them. Can't we move this along more quickly? The bill would mandate you do it all within 6 months. So, would you address that, please? How quickly can you move?
Thank you. The agency supports electronic monitoring and other types of observing systems, but in particular the new advents of electronic monitoring. They offer a lot of promise in terms of better data collection, in terms of more cost-effective data collection. I don't think that there is a circumstance in the near future in which they will completely replace observers and all the things that observers can get, but they certainly can supplement, and in many instances can do some of the same things that the observers do. In the Pacific, well, let me back up. The agency did issue a policy last year articulating those principles of support and requiring our regional offices to work with their respective councils to come up with regional plans to move out and to actually start implementing some of these systems, to move out of the pilot process, which we're in, into actual implementation. The councils are a key partner in this process. The councils have to set the goals for the monitoring. They have to
Okay, so we're going to run out of time. I have other questions. So you're basically putting the blame back on the councils for slow implementation.
No, sir, but I think it is a partnership, and we need to work together to move more quickly.
Okay, well, you hear the frustration here, and that's what's reflected in the legislation. ESA issues. This would put the councils in charge of ESA. I'm wondering how would that work for recovery of, say, the Snake River sockeye salmon. Does the council have the expertise to deal with the biop up the Columbia River? How could they be in charge?
Well, certainly the councils don't have the expertise to deal with all of the ramifications of ESA recovery. I view the provision in the draft discussion bill as saying that whenever you issue a fishery management rule, which is a critical part for some species recoveries, that has to be done in the Magnuson Act. But there are many other things that are affecting salmon and many of our other species, which would retain their original jurisdiction. Recovery plans are documents that then Marine Fisheries Service does, and I don't see the draft as changing that. It does, I think, say that if we do a harvest regulation for salmon or other stocks, that has to be run through the council process.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Tyler, Joe.